The OAMnetwork.com. Power to the podcast.
Hey, it's that time again. Talk Time Live with Romalis Jones. Welcome back to all of our listeners and all of our viewers on Facebook Live. This is an exciting Wednesday, and we are ready to talk about it. Once again, we're talking about mental illness and various issues and various topics as it relates to that. So last week's show was wonderful, and this is part 2. This is National Mental Illness Awareness Month for minorities. So tonight we want you to get an understanding of what's going on in our community. So we're going to get started. I'm excited tonight that I have my good friend from way back when. She looks young, and she is young. But my good friend from way back when, I call her Dr. Davis. She says she's just Kelly Davis, but she's doing a phenomenal job here in the city of Memphis and actually across the country. People are calling for her, so she's here with us tonight. Say hello to the people, Kelly.
Hello, everybody.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
And also joining us again tonight is my little brother, Todd. He's in the house tonight. Tell the people, what's up, Todd?
What's up, y'all? How y'all doing out there?
Yeah, and you all know I like to start out our segment with what's in your cup. Well, today has been a crazy day. You know, this is my cup. I'm not going to tell you what's in my cup, but it's something for me to know what's in my cup. But what's in your cup is basically what has pretty much went on with you today that you may want to share and you may not want to share, just as I don't share what's in my cup tonight, but it is something legal. All right. So, Todd, what went on with you today? You know, that you may feel that you want to talk about.
Not much worth talking about today. Now, had you asked me what was in my cup yesterday, maybe it was something different.
Okay, but what was in your cup yesterday then?
Fatigue was in my cup yesterday.
I feel you.
But today, is a better day. So rebounded and, doing all right. I also have something legal in my cup too. So.
Oh yeah, I saw you pointing in there, so I don't know about all that. Okay. Kelly, you got anything you want to put out there before we get started?
Not really. What's in my cup is a refresher from Starbucks that I like a lot.
A refresher from Starbucks. Yes. Well, that's what's up. So my question is to you that's out there, what's in your cup? What is it that you are dealing with that you may not want anybody to know or may not want to just express? You have a right to that, but just know that whatever's in your cup is your cup. So with that being said, let's jump right into it. This is a heavy topic on tonight, just like I said last week. It is a conversation within our community, and when I say our community, the Black community, the African-American community, that we tend to look over. And I'm finding that this is National Mental Illness Awareness Month, and that's for minorities. So it's not just in the Black community, but it is affecting communities all over. And I'm excited I want this young lady to introduce herself and tell you who she is, and we're going to jump right into the show because this show tonight, just like last week, is a heavy show. We may not get a chance to get a break, but we also going to allow something new to the show, and that is we're going to open up the lines for you to be able to call in, and we'll give you that number at that time. But let me just bring Kelly in. Kelly, if you just talk to the people, tell them who you are and what you do and all that kind of good stuff.
Okay, my name is Kelly Davis, and I am a licensed professional counselor and a mental health services provider. I got the designation with the state of Tennessee, and I am an approved clinical supervisor with the state of Tennessee, which means that I can sign off on new people that want to be therapists. I'm in private practice. My agency is the Mental and Emotional Resource Center Incorporated, also known as Mercy. And I am a director of grief and trauma resolution therapy at one of the local hospitals here. I've been there for 9 years. I've been director of the trauma program for the past 6 years. And I absolutely love what I do. I love what I get to do every day.
Nice.
Well, great. I do see that on our Facebook page, we have a few people that have joined in. This is a live recording for the podcast listeners and the OEM network. But I want to shout out to Melissa Bowden, and Dr. Vivian Wesson and Jill Lawson and a few others that I'll be shouting out to. But I want to thank you all for joining in, and make sure you share and let people know that we will have the call in just a little bit. But Kelly, I just want to ask a few questions out to throw us into mental illness, but I know that there are certain things that you want to address that just stems away from that title, mental illness. But if you can just give us a sound definition of what you would say mental illness is so that the people can know exactly the correct definition for that.
I'm going to do my best. That's a loaded question. I think mental illness would be textbook. People that have maybe a distorted view of reality, out of contact with reality, behaviors that would appear at times bizarre. But honestly, I think everybody in America probably has some type of undiagnosed mental illness or disorder. Simply because of the world that we live in. We live in a world that planes hit buildings and 17 kids go to school, get shot and killed, and people just can go to a concert and die. So I think everybody has some type of anxiety disorder, let me say that. So we're in a world that everybody could use some type of mental health services, if that makes sense.
That makes sense. It makes a whole lot of sense. And like we said last week, life just happens.
Right.
And I think because of the term, Todd, mental illness, we kind of steer away from that because nobody want to be looked at as a mentally ill person.
Right.
But at the same time, there's a degree of some type of sickness when it comes down to our mental capacity. Right. So we want people to understand that it's just not one particular look or one particular person. Yeah.
It has so much to do with people's ability to manage manage their stress levels, manage what it is that they're dealing with. And management can come from emotional resourcing, can come from just how we were taught to deal with adverse situations. I think what I try to do is give my patients and clients the tools and the skills to manage things that they simply cannot control, things that they didn't cause. I don't really believe in such thing as a finish line that you get to and you're problem free and you don't have to deal with anything. I don't believe in that. I believe you just learn how to manage better with things.
You want to interject there, Todd? Anything?
No, that makes total sense. We were talking before the show started, and Kelly was telling me that some of these issues with people can lie dormant. And that was really profound to me because I'd never heard of something, like that, from a mental standpoint, something, illness or disorder, being able to lie dormant. But so that was really interesting to know. Kelly, can you expound on that, for the people that, that didn't hear what we were talking about?
Yeah, I do think, in our field, an axis 2 disorder, when you talk about the 5 axes, would be some of the heavier diagnoses, such as, I would say, schizophrenia or things like I don't want to say schizoaffective, but when I think about an axis 2, I think about hearing voices, responding to internal stimuli, doing things again that would seem bizarre to somebody without a disorder. And the way I was trained, those things can lie dormant until stressors begin to hit and the diagnosis becomes full-fledged.
Right.
And like most people, I think we ask a lot of times, like, where did this come from? How did I get this? How did this happen? I don't, how we got here is not nearly as important as we're here now and what do we do.
Right.
That takes so much attention away from how to manage where we are, because typically in our community, African American community, we really, we shame and we blame.
Yeah.
We shame and we blame disorders. We shame and we blame trauma. We shame and we blame feelings. To try to figure out where it comes from takes so much time and attention away from what are we to do to manage it
At this point,
now.
yeah.
Because even if we found out where it came from, how long it was dormant, it won't change what I'm dealing with right now.
Right.
And
In any way.
Yeah, with that being said, I had someone ask the question after this last week's show, was it hereditary? So as you're saying, it really doesn't matter in a sense where it came from. You just want to deal with it now.
It matters to a point.
Okay,
I'm sorry, it matters
okay.
to a point, because there are times it can be hereditary. When
Okay.
you see a person's parents or grandparents that have committed suicide, that a patient in front of me would definitely be a high risk for somebody with suicidality. Now that goes back to the whole nature versus nurture kind of thing. There are times that children will take on dealing with issues and problems the same way a parent did.
Okay.
If I saw them deal with it this way, whether it's in my bloodline or not, that's just a nurture. If they dealt with it that way, then now I deal with it this way. But that's the debate, which one comes first. So same thing with addiction. If daddy was, upset, but then when he started drinking, he was happy again, and the child saw that, then I do what I saw.
Right.
So whether it's in my bloodline or not, that's where I came from. So that's what we do until we get into therapy and unlearn behaviors.
Unlearn. That's the key thing, because a lot of behaviors are learned
Absolutely.
behaviors.
Right.
And I also had some people that had a concern if both parents had been diagnosed and institutionalized. I didn't know, not only had a concern, but had a fear if that would pretty much stem over to them. They was concerned whether they would possibly somewhere down the line be institutionalized. What's your take
And
on that?
institutionalized is such a heavy word. It is such a heavy word, as if there's no coming back from that. Parents can be diagnosed and be hospitalized.
Okay.
Sometimes maybe they just needed a timeout. I need a timeout from life. I go and get myself together, and I go back again. In this day and time, it doesn't matter if both parents have been hospitalized or if they have not been hospitalized.
Okay.
We live in a world that produces so much stress and so much anxiety. Some people will have to check in just to know how to manage.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
It
So
does.
whether the parents were both hospitalized, yeah, maybe the kid would be, or the person would be. I don't think that's a direct path into going into the hospital, but I also don't think I don't think you're exempt either.
Right,
If
right.
neither of your parents went to treatment, you're still not exempt.
Right.
The environment produces, it just produces that.
And I think I feel this that it is very important to know when you are feeling overwhelmed.
Absolutely.
It's very important to identify that, and it's very important to say,
Absolutely.
I need a break.
Absolutely.
That's whether it's from family, from work, or just with bills, stresses, or what have you.
Right.
Because when you don't identify that, and when you don't own your truth that you are overwhelmed,
Right.
that's when it leads to other things.
Right. Now, let's talk about the reason why we do have an inability to own our truth. It goes back to the shaming and blaming again. That if I say to you, I need a break, then what will you begin to think of me? Will you begin to think that I'm weak, I'm not good enough, I'm less than? And we are so fueled by what others think.
Right.
So
Oh,
we
yeah.
show up the way we want people to believe that we're
Yeah,
showing
exactly.
up. So
exactly.
I won't say I need a break because, and the only reason why we lie about how overwhelmed we are, we fear abandonment and rejection. We'll do anything to hold on to connection or relationship. So I will wear myself ragged just to perform.
Right.
to be able to do that. I think we have to make it okay to say, yeah, I need a break. This is too much for me. And you won't hold that against me.
Okay.
Yeah.
So a person that's dealing with that may feel like somebody's going to look down upon them, what would you say to them?
I think there are times and this is very practical and simple, but I do coach people in this way. For example, if I was worried about what you would think of me, Romels, I would say to you, this is going to be hard for me to say and probably hard for you to hear. It's going to be hard for me to say because I don't know how you're going to look at me. But I need a break. I'm not doing as well as it seems. I go at it just that way, and I just put parameters around the conversation.
And that's you make that sound real
profound.
easy.
Yeah,
It made it sound real easy. And I want you to hear that. Those that are listening in and watching tonight, just as simple.
It is really simple.
I need a break.
And I tell it on myself and I'm worried about what you're going to think of me once I say this. Will you think that I'm weak? Will you think that I'm less than? What you think of me concerns me.
Wow.
Yet I need a break.
Wow.
Once I introduce it in that way, then I put a little bit of control around it. And if I say to you, I'm concerned about what you're going to think, you're going to soften.
Right.
And you're going to lean in a little bit.
Right.
You're going to lean in a little bit as opposed to anxiety is all about, I don't want you to know that I have anxiety.
Yeah.
If I tell you I'm scared right now and I have it, I've just told it on myself.
Right.
So you can't say, well, dang, Kelly's scared. Well, I just told you I was.
Right.
So you can use that against me.
Right.
Right. And if a person does not receive that, this is for somebody that's listening, you move on.
Right.
You move on.
Then I have to question what it is that I had as far as a relationship in the first place.
Right,
Exactly.
right.
Exactly.
One of my favorite authors, Anne Lamont, she talks about how in childhood we learn how to fold. We fold up to say, okay, I'm good, my parents are good, everything is fine. And she said, as we grew up, we began to unfold, and we realized that in the fold was the lie. I folded to say I was good, but you know what? I really wasn't. I folded to say things were okay. You know what? They really were not. So she says, how many times have you folded? Because every time you folded, you told a different lie. But we're taught to fold. We're taught if you fold, people will like you. If you fold, it'll make you successful. If you fold, you get pretty much what you want. No, if you fold, you lose yourself pretty much.
And that's the key thing. You don't want to lose yourself.
But we're taught that.
And exactly, and I like that word. We fold just to fit in, just to get
Absolutely.
the promotion, just for people to like us. When you know that you're overwhelmed, you
Yes.
know. So that truth session is something that we're going to have to deal with on this show too. You know, knowing your truth.
Absolutely.
Your truth is your truth. However you feel.
Absolutely. And we have to learn how to disagree without disconnecting.
Exactly.
Say that again.
We
Say
have to
that-
learn how to
that is-
disagree without disconnecting.
That is.
I think my relationship with you, Ramels, is strong enough that we can disagree. We won't disconnect. I won't fear that he will abandon me.
Right.
You know, if he likes strawberries and I like cherries, I'm not gonna lie and say these strawberries real good. I can say I'll eat strawberries today, but tomorrow it's gonna be cherries.
It's going to be cheers.
And if I vote for my cherry and he leaves me, we didn't have anything in the first place.
Yeah.
That's a key thing.
That
When
is-
people leave you, that means there was nothing there in the
No.
first place.
Yeah.
I like that analogy. If you like strawberries, or I like strawberries and you like cherries, you know, if I get mad over you liking cherries because I want strawberries, there's no substance there in
And
the
our
relationship.
entire relationship has been built on me saying yes when I probably should have been saying no.
Exactly.
But that also comes from a lot of times. I would go back to trauma because you do what you got to do to survive.
So just like Ann Jill just tweeted in, and I guess that resonated with her. Disagree without disconnecting. That's good.
Yeah,
Disagree without disconnecting.
that's real. Then it's authentic.
Yes,
that,
yes.
that
You
really
know,
is.
yeah.
That really
If
is.
everything is yes, 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 you got to be careful with that.
Yeah.
Right. And you don't want to become a yes person because when you become a yes person, you're losing the person. You're losing yourself. And you don't want to ever lose yourself.
Right.
Because when you lose yourself, that's when the anxiety begin to build up.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So maybe my great grandmother was on to something. She didn't put it like that, but this past weekend we celebrated our 60th year family reunion in Dallas. And she would always say, no matter what, get along. So basically, I guess, even if you've got to disagree with the other person, that's fine. But they'll deal with that but still stay
Absolutely.
family, stay connected. And so that's big to hear it put like that, because sometimes we don't understand that is how you deal with, not, I guess, folding is, hey,
Absolutely.
if we disagree, that's fine. We're human, we're different people, so we can, disagree, but not disconnect.
Right.
That's big.
Absolutely. I think we have to learn that the world is too big for that.
Right.
As you say that, I think about so many people in my circle, my social atom, they're from Muslims to agnostics to Buddhists, that we don't agree on our faith. I wouldn't dare disconnect, though, because of who they are to me.
Right.
I wouldn't dare disconnect. And I know they wouldn't dare disconnect from me because of, no, absolutely, I can't think of disconnecting.
Yeah.
But that comes with maturity, that comes with doing that.
Yeah, because when you disconnect, if there's a disagreement and you disconnect with somebody that supposed to be in your life, you miss out on all of the jewels that
Absolutely.
they can bring to the table for
Right.
your life, just because you're disconnecting. And a lot of times we disconnect because we don't understand. And a lot of times we don't understand because we don't listen.
We don't, right.
We
right.
don't listen. Yeah, so
Right.
that's good. I have a question for you as we're dealing with mental illness, and then I wanted to get into that subject that you was telling me about. Yeah, when a person always appear to be the victim, looking for sympathy, and the world is against them, and they feel like they got to always find something wrong with everything else. Is that a sign of mental illness?
I don't know if I would put that as a sign of mental illness. I think it is a form of pathology.
Okay.
Pathology, I think that can be pathological. I think there are people that have fissues, and not necessarily issues. Fissues are just kind of, I'm just fishing for you to rescue me and take care of me, which is why I always have an issue. I always have a problem. And when you attempt to rescue and take care of me, for some people, that feels like love. That's the only way they know how to get care and concern.
Okay.
They have to have some kind of crisis or some type of situation. So they do perpetuate that, and they do continue that because that's what they know.
That's what they know.
And I tell patients and clients, be careful building your relationship upon problems, because it's going to take a problem to keep the relationship then.
Wow.
Meaning, if our relationship is built on issues, I'm never going to get better. Because as soon as you help me with one thing, I got to come up with another one.
Exactly.
Because that's that unhealthy attachment. You care about me through my issues and through my problems. And if that's the only way I know how to get it, then that's where I say the pathology comes in.
Okay.
This is what I know to do, until you raise awareness and make people aware that this is what they're doing. But there's some people that are afraid of getting healthy, because if I get healthy, then people abandon me. They leave me.
They don't.
Right.
Yeah. They don't feel like
Yeah.
they're necessary enough for you to extend that friendship beyond
Absolutely.
the issues. Because some people, and I know a few of them, especially. And again, I don't want to give it this this stereotype as though, but in the urban community, there are some people, they're not having a good day unless they're having a bad one.
Yeah.
Like there has to be something wrong for them to, I guess, to make it or to feel a part of, because like you said, somebody may come to rescue and they look at that as being love.
Yeah.
So I guess that's interesting that you would say that. So it's not necessarily not necessarily a mental illness, but
Yeah, but it definitely can be pathological. And a good reframe, even with that, if every time I see this person, they have an issue or a problem, you can really gently challenge, you've been had the same problem for 20 years. Wow, your resilience is amazing.
Right.
You're so strong. You don't
laughing,
even realize
but
your strength.
that is
you gently toss that back.
Right.
Your resilience is amazing, and I know that you'll be able to do this just like you got through the others. You just gently turn it back around.
Right.
Now, the people that always have an issue all the time, they know how to find those codependents, because there are those of us that like rescuing them.
That's the key thing. They
We
find
hold-
codependence. Right.
Well, and codependents love it, because
Right.
they like being the savior. Yeah. They like rescuing.
Well, let me
they
ask
like
you this.
fixing.
Do you feel like they may have some issues as well?
Codependency is nothing, it comes out of trauma.
Right.
Yep.
Codependency is all about a codependent is somebody, a lot of times in childhood, I could not fix and I could not save. I couldn't do what they wanted me to do. I just didn't want them to hurt me or leave me. And so as a child, if you hurt me and you left me, then as an adult, I'm addicted to other adults that are just as broken. I would say to other adults, you want my money, my mind, my body, what you want. Just don't hurt me, don't leave me. It has nothing to do with that adult relationship, but everything to do with what I couldn't fix as a kid.
Whoa.
When I am hysterical, putting up with stuff I shouldn't be putting up with in a relationship, oftentimes it's historical. It's something in my past that I couldn't work out, so I'm still trying to get my do-over. So codependents are always going to find that broken winged bird. They got to fix them. They got to save them. Because if they fix them and save them, then you become what I need you to be.
Exactly.
But a person that's skilled at codependency, baby, they ain't getting ready to get fixed because they benefit.
Right.
Does it make sense what I say?
It does.
Yeah,
It does. Well, not to interrupt, cut you off, but it kind of brings me to this thought. You have people that are really big in who they are in their spirit. Will give you the shirt off their back. Will do anything for you, but won't let you do it for them.
Right.
What is that? Whereas, hey, I can go beyond and beyond and beyond and beyond for you. But if I decide, can I do this for you? Then it's almost like I'm running for the hills to keep you from doing that same thing. Is that sort of a?
That's a very good question. I think most of the time when you have people that give and do, I think there are times they give out of their own deprivation. Meaning I'm giving and doing perhaps what I never got.
Yeah.
I'm giving out of my own deprivation. And so people that do give and do, in my opinion, they will lie and say, I just do this out of goodness of my heart. I don't want anything back. That's a lie. We do want something back. If all I want you to do is be nice to me, I want something back.
Exactly.
If I want you to appreciate it, I want something back. But a codependent is not going to admit they want something back. They're just going to say, I'm good, but I'm mad as hell. It's being figured out I'm not good. And so my challenge to that, it feels good when you're able to help other people. You feel good. When you don't let people help you, you rob them of that same feeling.
And that's what
How dare you do that?
How dare you do that? Yeah.
And then the other thing about that is that you get to a place as a codependent, you get overwhelmed.
Absolutely.
And it gets back to that
Right.
anxiety.
You're exactly
and
right.
then you start
You're exactly
feeling
right.
over anxious, and you don't know what to do, and then you at that breaking point.
And or you found what to do. Codependents have a legitimate need to feel valued and cared for themselves. Because remember, they probably didn't get it as a kid. They find illegitimate ways to meet the need.
Okay.
Drugs, alcohol, sex. A lot of addicts are codependent.
Wow.
Now, we often think the family is codependent, but a lot of addicts, if you research, there's a lot of codependency there. They tried to save or fix somebody.
Wow.
And so the drug becomes an illegitimate way to do that. Do you get what I'm saying? It comes out of that. It's still to satiate that. Codependents in recovery have to learn how to receive and not believe it's taking.
Wow.
We have to learn how to receive without taking. Receiving doesn't mean taking. And codependents in recovery, when they're getting help, they have to learn that it's okay to be on the receiving end.
Wow.
And that I'm not,
That's
taking.
So tonight, if you're just joining in, Todd, if you're just joining in, these are all STEM factors that we're talking about that leads to mental illness. So we want you to know that it's okay to identify where you are, but it's not okay to stay where you are if you have some issues going on or if you feel overwhelmed. So this is a first to hear that people that are codependent pretty much are dealing with issues as well.
Absolutely. And we always say the definition wrong. I'm codependent on him. Codependent is dependent on the relate. That's not what it is. Codependency is if I fix you, you will become what I need you to be.
Exactly.
I'm addicted to somebody with more problems than me. I just got to love you right. If I can do this right, you will become everything that I need. They're just about fixing and rescuing. Codependents have to learn how to care without carrying responsibility for the situation.
And you touched on one word that stuck out is traumas.
Yes. Yeah.
There's so many different traumas that
Yeah.
people have experienced, whether it's from childhood, young adulthood,
Right.
or adulthood. And these traumas have to be dealt with. You cannot ignore whatever traumatic issue that you've had in your life.
Absolutely.
You want to touch back bases on traumas?
I think so much stems from unprocessed trauma and undiagnosed trauma. My definition of trauma is really a day or time, a situation that all hell broke loose in a person's life, that after that day happened, they knew they would never be the same. And trauma is the stuff that people have said, get over it, forget about it. It's the past, let it go. And I don't think we realize how many people wish they had a delete button. They wish they could get over it. It's the stuff that people thought you were over it until there was a song, a sound, a smell, color, time of year that brought the memories and the pain back again.
So let me ask you,
it's a wounding. Trauma is a wounding.
Right. Do you believe, Kelly, that nowadays trauma is, I guess, I don't want to say bigger, but comes in a more magnified amount because of social media?
I think trauma, yes. And I think what's scary is because we're so desensitized to it.
Yeah,
it's not normal to see mass shootings and just keep flipping the channel.
You're right.
We're so desensitized to it, and it's not normal for the human brain and body to be in contact consistently with that. But we treat it that way. We try to desensitize it, and it's I think that's what make people that treat trauma like myself makes it just a little bit more difficult, because people want so badly to look at a traumatic experience and say, so I got through it, I survived, I'm all right with that. When if I look at your behavior says something different.
Totally
as a trauma therapist, I don't look at people with mental illness or people who have mental health issues and say, what's wrong with you? My question is always, what happened?
Right.
Something somewhere happened.
You have to deal with what happened.
Something happened. And when it happened, if we didn't get the attention or the care that we needed, which is a very short window to get that attention and care that we needed, that wounding probably turned into trauma.
And you said desensitizing these things that we see in the media, these shootings and everything, because of the trauma that haven't been dealt with in these people. We see it as a widespread.
Absolutely. We call that complex trauma.
Right, complex trauma.
It's trauma on top of trauma on top of trauma.
Okay. And with these young people that's doing this, they're getting younger and younger that's doing this. What type of traumas do you think the listening audience may identify in someone in their family before it happens, before it turns into something as traumatic as a gun shooting or at a store or whatever?
I like, I think it's Brene Brown. I like that she says that trauma is anything less than nurturing. So there are times that we will minimize an experience because it wasn't a shooting and say, oh, that wasn't trauma. We put it on that level. Sometimes it doesn't have to be that big.
That big, yeah.
When she says anything less than nurturing, meaning if I was hurt and I didn't get nurturing, that could produce, that could produce trauma. So the lethality or the thing that's important when it comes to traumatic experience is never the event, because we can't change the event. Is what I left that event believing about myself. If I left believing that it was my fault, that I am weak, I'm unworthy, I'm not good enough, therein lies the trauma.
Right, okay.
Especially if I believe those things and I had no control over what happened. There's no way it could have been my fault. But if I left believing that I'm unworthy, I can't do anything right, then it's going to be very easy for me to engage in behaviors that are still jacked up, because I don't believe I'm worth nothing anyway.
Right.
So it's easy to go in and shoot up a school, easy to go in and do all that. I'm not worth anything anyway.
Right.
That original event gave me that narrative.
Right.
And so you live life from woundings. That's what you live from.
Right.
It's the narrative, it's the story we carry after a situation has happened. Not the event, it's the story.
And with these situations that's happening, I had somebody pose the question, well, when people are mentally ill, they're going to get off anyway. That's why the first thing they say that this person was ill. The situation that's going on in Memphis with former basketball star that was killed. We don't have to mention the name or whatever, but we see that playing out in court, that the person is trying to portray that they are mentally ill. What do you say about that?
I think when people say people with mental illness or mental health issues are going to get off anyway, I think our court system in the world is just too complex to make a blanket statement like that and believe it.
Right, exactly.
That's just easy. We say things to make us feel better. If I say, okay, they're just going to get off anyway, then I don't have to deal with maybe the grief or disappointment or sadness if they don't get off, or if they do get off. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah,
I think it's just too complex to say that.
Yeah.
That's all that's going to happen. So you say that to keep your own expectations down.
Right.
You know, just tell me how you feel when mentally ill people get off. Let's talk about the real issue.
Exactly. What is the real issue?
How do you feel when they do get off?
Right,
let's talk about that as opposed to applying that to, across the board, because we don't know. We really don't know.
Well, we're having a conversation tonight with Kelly Davis, the director of the Mercy Center right here in Memphis, Tennessee. You may want to call in at some point. If you want to call in, you have a question, you have a comment or a concern, the number is 901-457-4677. Once again, that number is 901-457-4677. The lines are opening up now for your comments or concerns, and we want some serious comments. We want some serious questions or some serious concerns, because this is a topic that is serious within our community and other communities just all across the world. So when you call in, we'll try our best to answer any questions or concerns that you may have. But Kelly, I have a question for you. Is there a cure for mental illness?
Again, as a therapist, I'm a big words person. I think we just learn how to get the tools and skills to manage things differently and better. I'm real careful with selling people. There's this finish line you're going to cross, you're cured, and you're done. Because with the right trigger, you don't know how you'll react or respond to that. And people tend to beat themselves up if they have a reaction, if they're supposed to be over stuff. I think we get to the point that we manage it differently, we manage it better. I do know that there are people with a diagnosis that are living very, very, very full lives. I don't know if they would say they were cured, but I do know, I believe they would say through therapy, through my medication regimen, through prayer, through certain things, that I'm doing better. I'm doing okay.
And that's the key thing with medication regimens. There are several people that I've dealt with, and I try to let them know, hey, that I have to take my medicines for the ailments that I have.
Right.
Mental illness is just no different than any other sickness that a person has in their body that they have to treat for that sickness. So you have to make sure that give that terminology again. The medical therapy, what did you say?
Well, that you're complying with medication. At the same time, I do want to go on record saying this, that medication, this is where I was taught and trained with somebody that has a mental health issue, is only 30% of the whole process. The other 70 is therapy. Medication alone, in my opinion, does nothing.
Okay.
You do need the therapy to, in my opinion, anybody that's on medication, I think, needs to have a therapist.
Right.
Now, there are some people that might come to me for therapy, and I say, you need to go get on some medicine because you can't even hear me, you're so depressed. But, then there are people that, therapy, they go hand in hand, in my opinion. They go hand in hand.
Gotcha. I think we have a caller that's trying to come on through. Caller, are you there?
Yes.
Okay. Could you let us know who you are?
This is Dr. Lily M. English of Chicago.
Dr. Lily M. English of Chicago. This is one of my favorite people in the whole wide world, Dr. Lily M. English. What is your comment or question or concern on tonight?
Dr. Kelly is phenomenal. I applaud her. She's doing a wonderful job and giving us a lot of good information. I would like to ask her if she has the time to just discuss a little bit of the losses of death. People they lose their mother, there's accidents, they lose their sons, and all. And I just really, I would like to. Yeah.
Go ahead, Dr. English. Finish.
Oh, I'm on now.
Yes.
A little bit about the losses, how people can deal with death, the death of a child who's in an accident, a death of a mother, and it takes them through such trauma.
Right.
What can be done?
I'm so glad. I'm so glad that you asked that question. It's a very good question. I think life is one big grieving process. The longer you live, the more you lose. Mm-hmm. And I don't mean just in people. We lose eyesight, agility, hearing. So we do have to learn how to grieve and be permitted to grieve. Sadness is a feeling of love. To me, if you don't take somebody's joy, you should not take their sadness. There are times that the tears and the sadness, they honor what was lost, is honoring. But people will say sometimes when they see people crying, oh, stop that, don't do that. There's some research now that says MS and lupus is trapped emotional pain.
Wow.
And tears of sadness and tears of joy under a microscope, they look differently. The molecular structure is different. So when I'm crying tears of sadness, the body is releasing something. It should be encouraged and allowed, not halted. So there'll be times that some of us will grieve for the rest of our lives, and that's okay. The significance of the loss. I believe that if I've lost a child, lost a parent, and if my grieving is getting on your nerves, you need to go to the other room then. Yeah. If that's bothering you, please don't. What you can do is support me in it. Now, I think those of us that grieve, it's important for us to know what our needs are in the grieving. Mm-hmm. If my need is for you to bring me a 6-pack of Coke if you go by Kroger, I may not touch that Coke, but at least to know that you were willing to do it. Yeah. While I'm in it. Wow. Not change what I feel and not abandon me because I can't stop crying. But just can you just support me in it with the 6-pack of Coke?
Exactly.
Can you make me that spaghetti that you do? I may not touch it, but the fact that you're willing to do it. Yeah. But to halt or stop anybody's grieving, I think it's abusive. I think it's wrong, and I think it should not happen. I think people should be encouraged and allowed to do so because it's love. Yeah.
And I'm glad that Dr. English called in at this time with the question that she had, because my next segment was going to be religion and mental illness. Dr. English is a pastor in Chicago. Yes. So most of the time in church, when people die, we hear that, don't cry, they're okay, they're with the Lord. And then they're suppressing it. And for you to say that can lead to lupus and what other illness?
There's some research, lupus and MS, that is trapped emotional pain, that it could attack the nervous system. Yeah. That's things that we have not let out. And I think we should be, yes, they are with the Lord. Thank you, Jesus, hallelujah. And I am sad. Glory. And I am sad.
And I'm still sad.
They're both true.
Right.
One does not cancel out the other. Grief and gratitude can coexist. Wow. I can be very grateful that they are with the Lord, and I can be very grateful for the family members that I have left. But I will forever grieve what I've lost. Gratitude is only made rich because of the grief.
Wow.
See, I can hold tightly to the gratitude because of the magnitude of what I've lost. Wow. And that comes from, a lady was saying she was pregnant with twin boys. One son she brought home, the other she left in the morgue, he didn't survive. And people say, you should just be glad that you have one son. She said, but I will never have two. Wow. Gratitude is settling for what you will never have. Just because I'm grateful for this one, you're going to let me grieve the one I lost. And just because I'm grieving doesn't mean I'm not grateful. Right. But my gratitude is rich because of the magnitude of the loss. We have to allow and encourage grief. They live in the same space. And to take away my grief and just make me be thankful, you set me up for nervous breakdown kind of stuff. You're getting me ready for it.
Yeah, that is, wow.
It has to be allowed. Christians don't have a hard time being honest with God. Christians have a hard time being honest with God in front of other Christians.
Exactly.
Because if I tell you I'm grieving and sad, you may attack my salvation.
Right.
You may tell me I'm not praying enough. Me and God we good. Right. But see, now I'm worried about what you might think of me.
So, Dr. English, did that answer? Did that help you out a little bit?
I'm over here shouting and shaking at the same time. God
Okay,
bless you.
shouting and shaking. I like that. Shouting and shaking. Okay, Dr. English, thank you for calling
Thank you so
in.
much. It's a very good question.
That's a very good question. Thank you, Dr. English.
If I can piggyback really quick,
901, while he's getting that together, 457-4677. 901-457-4677. Call in.
so like grief, like, and I know that Romalis and I, we can share similar stories, you know, grieving brothers that have passed away tragically. And I don't even know for years that I grieved at all. And but I didn't know that that was possible.
Yeah.
I didn't know that 10 years later, now I'm wondering, why am I crying for no reason? But I never dealt with it. And again, because again, growing up in the church and stuff like that or whatever. So I watched people around me and they didn't look like they were grieving.
Right.
So I figured, well, you know, let me handle this or deal with this the way that it appears that they're dealing with. But it was clearly eating me alive.
Absolutely.
And it was like, then finally I realized, I told my mom, I was like, is it okay for me to still, you know, be crying 20 years later?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I didn't know that. I didn't even know that was possible.
Absolutely. Especially, I had a lady in my office that came to me, and it was July's when her son, I think was 22 years old, had passed away, and she saw somebody, and they told her, well, you've gone through the 5 stages of grief. You should be okay now. And I'm like, I'm so sorry you were told that, but you need to start getting ready in June. You have to prepare in June for July.
Right.
I need to start getting ready in June. I need to say that I'm going to rest. I'm not going to overextend myself because July is coming.
Right.
And that's going to be tough for me. That's honoring the space to grieve that. So to say that I'm done grieving that, no. Yes, it's okay to continue to grieve. Actually, I will prepare for grief. I mean, August is coming up. My mother died August 15th. I have to start getting ready now.
I never heard it put like that.
Yes, I have to prepare now, because if not, then I'll be irritable and snapping and this and that, and that's what it really is.
Right.
And that's the key thing.
Yeah.
When those times come around and roll around,
They come every year.
you know, they come every year, and you will watch the transition of a person's mood shifts because of that time frame. And would you say that that's undealt with grief?
I think sometimes it is, you know, when people say, you know, I just want to be strong, I don't want to upset anybody else, to me it's perfectly okay. You know, I say this jokingly, but I've told people, buy yourself some new pajamas and sleep the whole day away. At least you got a plan. I'm going to put these pajamas on the day of that, at least I got a plan.
Right.
I'm not getting ready to force myself to do this and that and act one way and really feel another way. This is my plan. This is how I'm going to deal with that. That I have to do that for me as opposed to doing this, you know, for everybody else.
Right.
You know, I've had a parent that lost a spouse in front of the kids. Well, I want to be strong in front of the kids. It's okay for them to see you. It's okay for them to see you not strong and not okay. They lost their dad. You lost your husband. Share in that.
That's deep.
Share in that.
These last few minutes that we have, I just want to tap back into that religion factor. Do you feel like religion is a cover-up for mental illness?
I think when we are, you know, unlearned and uneducated, I think it can be. And I think people with religion, I think they did the best they could with what they thought they had. And I'm so grateful for platforms like this. And I was with Pastor McBee at his church last night for opening up, being able to learn more about it. I think at the time it was what they knew to teach us. But when it comes to religion, and especially, you know, the Bible, I think the Bible was full of people that had mental health issues, you know. I think Paul would have been admitted to my hospital about 5-6 times. He said, when I would do good, evil was still present. That I don't need to do, I'm doing it. And the stuff that, you know, I should be doing, I don't do. And
That's
I said,
insanity.
I could hear them paging me, Kelly, Paul is back. Paul, you're back in here. But he didn't get shamed.
Right.
He was still used mightily.
Right.
Elijah's on a juniper tree, just as depressed and suicidal. David, if anybody had bipolar disorder, it would have been David. He was after God's heart.
Absolutely.
1 minute he's kill him, spare him. David was hypersexual. He didn't kill the person and was with the sheep. And God used him. Jesus in the flesh. You talk about post-traumatic stress disorder. That cross was gory.
Yeah.
In the flesh. I can imagine the nightmares and flashbacks. Jesus in the flesh. That was trauma.
That's trauma.
The Bible is filled with things that could be diagnosed today. And I hate that today we shame it, but Scripture used it because of the issues they were used.
Yeah. Just that ignorance, just meaning not knowing.
Just not knowing.
Not knowing, right.
Just not knowing, and knowing that therapy does not compete with church and ministry. It really should help complete it. It's an extension of it.
Say that again.
That therapist, we don't compete with church and ministry. It helps to complete an extension of it.
Wow.
I would be nothing without my relationship with God.
So
His son Jesus. Let
you
me say that on
cannot
record.
spiritualize something that's natural.
You can try.
You cannot.
How's
do
that work for you?
Right.
And this is what Christians will say about people that are suicidal. I would never. Who would want to kill themselves? Why would you take a gun, or why would you swallow pills? Who would want to do that? But I challenge Christians. How many times have you prayed and said, God, if I don't wake up tomorrow, it'll be all right with me.
Right.
Just take me in my sleep, Lord. That is still suicidality.
Right.
You still have the same. So you do understand why people would do it.
Right.
You still have the same desire as a person that would put a gun to their head.
Mm-hmm.
You do.
You do.
You have the same desire, even if you pray that prayer.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm glad that the churches and ministries opening up to want to know more. To want to know more about this.
You have to.
I think it's a tool that God uses. God uses.
And it takes these tools to get us to a better place. Because like I said, I wanted to use this last part of the show to talk about religion being pretty much a cover-up.
Yeah.
And for so many years, people have used the church to hide where they are. And then we have heard in the last few years the different shootings in the church.
Yeah, right. Absolutely.
Because these things wasn't dealt with.
They were not dealt with. And because I think the church has not been equipped to deal with it. I had somebody come to me, there was a trauma nurse, and she talked about at the med, the trauma center, you have gunshot wounds and stab wounds. You have different teams set up to deal with different woundings. And she said she was in a prayer service and had heard the people of God wailing. And she said, God, this sounds like the med. The people of God are hurting. And so the thing was, well, were the teams set up to deal with those type woundings? To me, that's where mental health comes in to deal. The gunshot people don't go to the stab people probably at the med. So we have to be equipped, to know how to deal with that.
Hold on a minute, Kelly. You mean to tell me you're saying the willing is people that's really...
I'm telling you, that's what she said. It sounded just like the med, and I agreed.
And I can agree to a degree. I can agree to a degree.
Right.
That it sounds like something that's going on the inside.
It's hurt.
Because when we're willing, we're in a sense, everybody know my background. I'm a pastor, been there, done that. You're willing, you're crying out, you're hurt. God, I need this. God, it's almost back to what we said at the beginning of the show. That anxiety, we're stressed, we're overwhelmed.
Yes.
So if you don't, if the Lord don't help me,
Absolutely,
I can't stand the storm.
Right.
So if you don't help me, but the key thing behind that, it sounds funny, but when you are sitting there wailing all night long, trying to get in contact with God, you need to get in contact with your truth.
Absolutely.
With yourself.
That I am hit. I've been hit.
I've been hit, I've been hurt, and I am mad.
Absolutely.
And it's okay to be.
It's okay to be mad. It's okay to feel the way that you feel. But it's not okay to allow the church and your religion to be a cover-up for your sickness. Because after so many years of running and going back to the church and not dealing with your truth, you die sick.
Right. And we don't deal with
mentally.
The truth because we fear abandonment. That if I tell the truth, people will leave me. That's why we don't.
If I tell the truth, I don't have my position.
So that's what we do. And so you become, as another show, but you become very performance based. If I don't feel like I matter and belong based on my truth, then I'll start to do. I'll perform to solidify my position. Right. We're human doings. We don't know how to be human beings.
Yeah.
If I could just be in my truth, I'd be out. But we know how to do. We perform with that. But as I said, I'm glad that churches, pastors are opening up, saying we got to know more. We need more tools and we need more resources. You know, in my heart, I'm a church girl. Right. In my heart, but I when you can get mental health and church together, you can really shout.
I mean, we really can shout and you can rejoice.
Right. You can really shout.
Right. And
really
so many pastors are overwhelmed.
Absolutely.
So many pastors are dealing with so much stress and just feeling like ready to quit. As I said on the last show last week with CN, when we was talking about suicide in the black family, the pastor a few years ago went to his hotel room. Yeah. Very well-known pastor, had a large following, but took his life. Yeah. And then the other young man just last Monday, I believe, friends of mine in California, very known person, I think it hit CNN, hearing voices. We talked about the voices, hearing the voices in your head and not dealing with those things. And he stated in his suicidal statement that he loved God, he knew Jesus and all that, but at the same time, he didn't get the help for the voices that he was hearing in his head. And he did say, I'm going to take a chance. I may end up in what we call heaven or hell, or end up just floating around. That was pure mental illness that was covered up by some form of religion.
I think so. You know, I think so. That's what we believe. You know, religion to me is rules without relationship. And I think it was Kirk Franklin that said, rules without relationships is rebellion. If all you can give me is rules and you don't take the time to form a relationship with me and know me and meet me in my truth, then yeah, it's rebellion. Yeah, you know, that's what that becomes.
Rules without relationship. And when you're
I think that's what religion is.
Right. Well, when you're under a lot of rules and you can't meet the requirement of these rules, what does that cause? Anxiety.
Right. And it becomes, in my opinion, it becomes fiction.
Oh yeah. Oh, you just become like, so what?
Yes.
Like here's the thing. Everything we do has to have a payoff.
It has to have a payoff.
It's got to be a prize at the end for me.
That's true.
Everything you do has to have a payoff. And I get to the point that the payoff ain't coming, I'll create my own payoff then.
And then guess what? That word that you used earlier, fold. We begin to fold.
Yeah, I can't fold anymore.
We begin to fold and be something that we're not. This has been awesome. I know that time flies when we're, quote unquote, getting knowledge. I'll put it like that. So this has been awesome, and I'm grateful that you took the time out of your busy schedule. I know that you are leaving here to go to another session. Right. So we don't want to hold you any longer, but we appreciate you. I appreciate you,
Thank you for coming on. Thank you for the platform.
So do you have any closing remarks, or do you, closing statements or what have you, and where people can find you and all that good stuff?
My closing statement would be, life is hard, and find a good therapist to take along with you. You know, life is hard. Yeah. And my office number is 901-729-7825. My website, www.mercymemphis.org, and I have some other resources on that website. But I think seeking professional help will be the best investment that we've made. I think everybody could use a therapist. I have a wonderful therapist. I'm not going to shout him out, but I do.
I think I know him.
I think everybody could use a therapist. You don't know him?
I don't know him.
He's not.
Sure? I think I know everybody in this city. Yeah.
Well, see, that's it. He's not in this city. I drive 4 hours bi-weekly. I ain't gonna tell you how much I pay.
Shut up.
But that's how important my mental health is to me.
Wow.
So there you go.
I take the time.
If a therapist
can
have a therapist,
you better not see a therapist, in my opinion, unless they have a therapist.
There you go.
That's just what I believe. That's what helps me, because we're not exempt from life either.
Right.
Life happens, trauma happens.
Right.
We're not exempt.
And I'm sure that when you are listening to all of these problems and issues that people are having, it can get overwhelmed. And someone sitting in my seat, I am where I am right now. I retired, quote unquote, from a pastor, but that was overwhelming.
Yeah, you call that vicarious trauma.
It was overwhelming. Yeah. So, we all need a therapist.
Absolutely.
Don't sit there and lose your mind when you don't have to lose your mind.
I think you should do a mental health check. Women go to the doctor once a year. I don't know how often men go, but you just do a wellness check. Go
Right.
sit in front of a therapist for 3 sessions, even if there's no presenting problem. Just go sit in front of somebody. You got EAP, use it.
Use it.
Just go do a checkup.
Use the tools that you have.
Yeah, just
Makes
bounce.
sense.
Yeah, just bounce it off somebody.
Well, thanks to all of our listeners and all of our viewers. And we didn't get to all of the other calls, but thank you to Dr. English that called in all the way from Chicago. Well, this has been Talk Time with Romalis Jones and my special guest, Kelly Davis, and my little brother, Todd.
Yeah.
So stay tuned for next week's show. Make sure you tune in and be prepared for what's coming up next. This show is all about real people, real conversations, and real issues. Right. Until next time, let's talk about it. Don't hold it in. Find somebody to talk to. Find a therapist to go to. And I guarantee you, you'll feel much better.
Yep.
The proceeding is an OM production. For more information, go to the oamnetwork.com.